Oh boy, I wonder if you can tell what movie I saw just based on the title of this video alone. So, like every other YouTuber and their goddamn mother, I'm going to talk about Shin Godzilla and how it was a steaming pile of shit. That was my birds in the background. They're big Evangelion fans. The movie was too long. It didn't have enough Godzilla. When Godzilla was on screen, there was too much of Godzilla. He wasn't even Godzilla for half of the movie. It all focused on Japanese politics. And I can't understand Japanese politics or relate to them in any meaningful way, because I'm just a non-empathetic American. There's no characters in this movie. Forget about characterizing a group and not having a single main character that we follow. Forget about not having a movie where the main character is just a generic soldier man. No, these are boring main characters because all they do is talk about politics, and I can't understand the satire the blatant satire that's in their conversations. All the English is terrible. Why can't they speak my language like I do? Right. Now that that's out of my system, I guess I'll just say what I actually thought of the movie, because I liked this movie. I really did. As the only person on YouTube to have reviewed Hideki Anno's other live-action film. Not the one I haven't seen, but the one I have. I feel it's my duty to talk about Shin Godzilla. After all, I'm the only person qualified to do it, obviously. Alright, 3 minutes of sarcasm. Over, probably. Shin Godzilla is 2 hours long, and it felt shorter than that. In fact, when the movie ended, I was surprised that it was over. For anyone that hasn't seen it, I'm just gonna go right into spoilers. I don't care. You shouldn't be watching this if you haven't seen the movie. We're just gonna spoil the end of this video. I recommend the movie to people, anybody. Go watch it with your dad, your mother, grandma. Bring grandma to the movies. They can watch Godzilla. So in this movie, Godzilla is terrifying in his actual Godzilla form. The other two are actually very cheesy and very dopey. It's a giant monster movie. You gotta expect this kind of stuff, right? But there was a lot more humor than I was expecting with how the trailers were and how the social perception was. To quote a Facebook news article, the new Godzilla movie is actually super political and deep. Well, I'll give it half of that. This is a very political movie, and every review that I've seen has just called it political. Like, no one's fucking gotten the point. Everyone just says, oh yeah, there's politics. Where Godzilla in 1954 was a clear allegory for the nuclear weapons and bombs and fallout and all the mishandling that came with that whole situation, this new Godzilla isn't that. Sure, nuclear waste is still a part of his origin, but that's not what Godzilla is representing. I think there was a certain other Godzilla movie, maybe one made here in America, that claimed that their Godzilla was going to be a force of nature. And I really didn't feel that in the American one, because they went with the superhero Godzilla, which is refreshing to see in an American movie, I guess. But with Shin Godzilla, this is a force of nature. This is a natural disaster, and it is played like a natural disaster movie, just with a giant monster. And that's a lot closer to how the original movie was. Shin Godzilla benefits from being closer to the original movie while still doing its own thing. Well, it wants to keep reminding you again and again of the original movie with music cues and certain soundtracks. It also isn't bound to that. It isn't going to just repeat the same cliches and story beats that we've seen over and over again every time Godzilla comes out in a new solo movie. And the politics, as I was mentioning before, play a key role in this. This Godzilla is very much a commentary on how Japan has handled more recent tsunamis and earthquakes, and Anno makes it painfully clear how much faith he has in the Japanese government to handle a real crisis situation. You don't need to have the fucking IQ of a rocket scientist to understand the politics in this movie. They're very straightforward, they're very laid out for you, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's a giant monster movie. People came for a giant monster, and I got a political satire on par with The Man Who Stole the Sun. So that's okay in my book. For Godzilla fans, you won't be disappointed. At least I wasn't. If you're the type of Godzilla fan that just wants to see Godzilla fight monsters, if your favorite Godzilla movie is Godzilla vs. Megalon, you will be disappointed. But for everyone else, the monster action doesn't disappoint. And I guess if you really don't want to examine the politics or messages, you can easily gloss over that. But they are pretty interwoven with the monster scenes. In fact, I know a lot of people are complaining that there's long spans of Godzilla not being there, but the whole first act is entirely Godzilla's first attack interspersed with the government falling all over itself, trying to counter it somehow. If they made more decisive and quicker decisions, then this movie could have been over with Godzilla's first form. And that's what this movie does really well. It's not a character movie. It's not focusing on one character and how we gotta get that soldier man right there with Godzilla. It's focusing on a larger group of characters. This movie also wants to constantly remind you that it's in the real world. The political backdrop helps a lot with this, but there's also plenty of newscasts and iPhone footage. In fact, in the first 5 minutes of this movie, it made me want to see Cloverfield, but directed by Hideaki Anno, and I never want to see Cloverfield again. It's clear that so many things influenced Anno on this movie. There's a fucking shot that's straight out of Nausicaa Valley of the Wind. Godzilla does the Ideon beam spam. The soundtrack is basically just the Eva soundtrack. But Anno's first love has always been Ultraman. Now, many would argue that Evangelion is what a Anno-directed Ultraman would look like. But this kind of follows the same beats, just without an Ultraman. The main Godzilla task force is just as characterized as the Science Patrol or the Ultra Guard. They're less characters and they're more devices to propel the story forward. And the way that the story's told, that doesn't make it less interesting. I know it's weird to say because every conventional storyteller wants we gotta have a story arc where our characters have changed from now. They've gone through the hero's journey. That's not this movie. This movie is about the events. It's about the larger picture. It's about how well prepared Japan is for a disaster. And if this movie is any indication, they better not have another earthquake anytime soon. So is this the best Godzilla movie since the first movie? Maybe. Might be the best movie. I still think it has yet to win over the place that Giant Monsters All-Out Attack has carved in my heart. One I would call a perfect kaiju movie, with all of the fights and just enough of the monsters. The other one I would call a fantastic political satire, also starring Godzilla. And of course, the original movie just is a classic. So yeah, this is just a little side video I'm doing. I'm probably not even going to put up any video or anything, because I don't have any source, and that would just be too much work. However, I do want to bring up one thing about the channel. I've been starting these little reviews, Asian Oddity reviews. I'll probably title this one Asian Oddity just to fill a fucking hole in the playlist. And the review of Audition has been taken down. By the time this video is up and compiled and everything, there should be a new Audition video up. It's the same fucking thing, just with a small portion taken out. That portion being the School Days anime opening that I used as an example of a generic harem show that was bad. I got a copyright strike not on Audition, not on the movie itself, but on the clip from School Days that I used. And I hate School Days so much that it kind of just pisses me off that it would be school days to get me my first copyright strike on YouTube. So that's still up. If you've already watched it, I guess you don't have to watch it again. Yeah, it's fine. If you haven't seen it, click it and show that fucking copyright strikes are bullshit. That's about it for this video.